We've got Frank Milsom over here, who's going to tell us a lot about the Horizon Systems bugs from the post office. Frank is my old lecturer from when I was here at university, and it's a real honour for me to have him come here and talk, and I get to hear a lecture from Frank again many, many years later. We won't say how many. So let's get started with Frank.
Well, thank you very much, Mark, for that kind introduction. Just out of interest, do any of you, I was going to say, do any of you watch television, but you know, that strange thing. There was an ITV drama a little while ago, Mr Bates versus the Post Office. Anybody watched that at all? Good, wasn't it? Yes. Harrowing, wasn't it? If you haven't watched it, do so. You'll learn quite a bit. I'm going to talk about the Post Office Horizon system and particularly its bugs. Now, excuse me using a crib sheet here, you know, I'm retired, so I'm allowed to do this kind of thing. A little bit about myself in case you want to know. I'm a retired lecturer, retired 5-6 years ago. Used to work here, although I don't think I've ever worked in this room. And before that, I worked as a software developer, initially for a software house, subsequently for telecommunication companies. And then I thought I've had enough of the real work, and I came here for a quiet life. And then, you know, oh dear, terrible. Right, let's roll on. So what I'm going to do is give you a couple of slides of background, just so you've got a bit of context. Then we'll move on to the bugs. And then I've got a slide right at the end, which hopefully will be the most useful slide to you, maybe not, about what we might learn from the experience that we've just been talking about. The Post Office Horizon system, what was it? Well, what is it? Because it's still in use. It's an accounting and electronic point of sale system for branches. The Post Office has over 11,000 branches in the UK. It's linked to the Post Office's central systems. It was initially developed, well, it was put out to contract. The Post Office said, come on, bid for this, guys. And the winning bid was a consortium led by ICL. There were several other companies in it. It's quite interesting to look back at that and think, gosh, were they all in there? Goodness me. ICL at the time was majority owned by Fujitsu, and ICL did in fact become part of Fujitsu. I've got some dates here. I can't remember dates, apologies. So the contract was won in 1996. The first release of Horizon came out in 1999, so now people started using it. ICL officially became Fujitsu, called Fujitsu, in 2002. The other little bit of background that might be of interest is that initially the bid was not just for the Post Office. It was for the Post Office and the Benefits Agency. But the Benefits Agency, after a while, thought, this is never going to work for us, and dropped out. Whether that impaired the initial architecture, I haven't got a clue. So, we got that far, that's good. It starts to get used, as things do. Oh yes, the other thing I need to tell you about post offices is that your branch of the post office, you're aware of what a post office is, you might have been in there. Yeah. Your post office branch is not run by post office staff, at least almost all of them aren't. The only ones that are Crown post offices. So your local branch basically has been franchised out, and the people running it are on a contract with the post office. And one of the terms of the contract is that the sub-postmasters, which is what they're called, have to make good any shortfall in their takings. Bear that in mind as we go along. So, off it gets released 1999, tell you I can't remember dates, and things start to go wrong. They don't go wrong for everybody, but they go wrong for some people. So some sub-postmasters find that they don't have enough cash in the till compared with what the system said they should have in the till. There's a shortfall. And the post office notice these things, as they do. I mean, they've got accountants. And they say, all right, you've got your hands in the till. And a lot of sub-postmasters, around 900. That's quite a big figure, but not, of course, as big as 11,000. About 900 sub-postmasters over a long period of time were charged either with false accounting or fraud, and a lot of, almost all of those were convicted. One or two did manage to mount a robust defence, well done. Almost all of those were convicted, and quite a few were sent to prison. This isn't good, trust me. And to make matters even worse, there have been a small number, but one is too bad, people who've committed suicide because of this. Those who watched Mr Bates versus the Post Office will see a case of that. Not nice. The fact that there were faults and they weren't being recognised by either the Post Office or by Fujitsu, or for that matter by the government. Oh, the government owns the Post Office. Don't forget that. You taxpayers, good. Somebody's got to fund the bill for the compensation. The fact that there were faults, Computer Weekly, I think, is probably the best source on this. If you want to get a little history, Computer Weekly, from a fairly early stage, started to carry stories saying, I don't think this is working too well. But Fujitsu didn't want to know, Post Office didn't want to know, and life went on. Now, I told you I had problems with dates. Oh yes, in addition to people being convicted, there were quite a few sub-postmasters, I don't know how many, who didn't get charged because they put their hands in their own savings to make good the shortfalls. So, they were out of pocket because of a computer system. Now, the key date here is 2019. This Mr Bates versus the Post Office programme culminates in a legal action. The action was Bates and others, and there were around about 500 others, Bates and others versus the Post Office. They won their legal case. At this point, the Post Office put their hands up and said, do you know, I think there might be bugs that we're aware of that could affect branch accounts. Now, this is bad news for all concerned. It's bad news for the sub-postmasters, clearly. It's now bad news for the Post Office. It's bad news for the government. So the obvious thing to do is start a public inquiry. Now, public inquiries are, in a way, lengthy processes, but they're quite useful. So let's have a look at this public inquiry. The obvious reason, investigate the miscarriage of justice. In fact, there's quite a lot more. If you're interested in that, go to that website. That is a very comprehensive website. The inquiry's been going for a while. It started taking evidence in 2022. We're expecting the final report next year. There's been an interim report which is focused on compensation. But the final report saying what went wrong, what can we learn from this, we're not expecting that until next year. A retired judge, and I think he's very good, Sir Win Williams chairs this. The point about the public inquiry is that people are forced to come and give evidence. They're required to give evidence, I mean, provided they're UK residents. We can't drag in people from overseas, which is a shame. But people have been, I think only one person so far been dragged in, kicking and screaming, refusing to go until the police knocked on his door, and he wasn't anything to do with Fujitsu. So evidence has been given to the inquiry by staff from ICL and Fujitsu and the Post Office, of course, and of course many other bodies. All this is recorded. If you go to that website, you'll be able to see videos of people giving evidence, You'll be able to read the transcripts of their evidence. The transcripts are very useful if you just want to kind of look through and say, oh, I wonder if there's keywords in here. Oh, there it is. They also have to submit written evidence. All that is available on the website. And there's also written evidence from people who haven't given formal oral evidence, but they have something useful to contribute. Again, some of these, the inquiry said, I'd like to hear your point of view. Some of these people have offered up. Now, this is my point of view, whether you like it or not. So that's where we are with the inquiry. Now I'm retired, which is good because I've got time to follow some of this, although, well, some of it. So, and if you're really interested, i.e. probably not, then there's a series of articles under my LinkedIn account which you can find, which will take you through things that I'm not going to say anything about today at all, but are to do with the inquiry. And I'm sure there's lots of people writing stuff about the inquiry. You may or may not like what I have to say. You may or may not like what I've written. Don't sue me. All right, what else do I need to say? Oh yes, in terms of the evidence presented to the inquiry, it's opening up what's gone on inside Fujitsu. It's a private company. You don't normally see how things operate inside it. I mean, you guys all work for a living, I trust, you know, and you know what's going on inside your company because you're living there, or at least the bit of it you're allowed to see. But you go to another company and you haven't got to really, you know what their exterior face is like, and you know what they're saying to you, what's really going on inside. We've found this out through the inquiry. Emails, lots of emails have been made available to the inquiry. Reports have been made available to the inquiry. Now, people, when they've been given evidence, have been asked, what happened in that meeting? Who else was in the meeting? Why did they decide that? Why didn't you complain about that? All that kind of information has been dragged out of people where necessary. You don't normally get to see the inside of a software development organization that way. And for somebody like myself, who has pretty much a lifelong interest in computer software, it's been fascinating. And you probably think, oh, I don't want to go there. Far too much information. What we haven't seen, with a couple of exceptions, is any code. And I don't think it's bad that we haven't seen the code. And we haven't seen things like test plans, test results, although we have seen the odd bug report, which is fortunate because, strangely enough, it would be hard for me to put this talk on without having some information about bug reports. So the main source I'm going to draw on is the evidence given by Fujitsu. In fact, the evidence was presented by their European director, Bill Patterson, on January 2024, but in particular, I'm going to pull out of his second witness statement. If you go to that page, you can find him being interviewed, you can find the transcript of him being interviewed, you can find a number of other documents, one of which is that second witness statement. And most of the stuff I'm pulling out of there, I'll be showing you, comes from that. Now, you will see popping up something called BED, not bed, BED numbers. They refer to, oh look, bugs, errors, defects. It's amazing how many words we got for this, haven't we? Faults, failures, anomalies, incidents, I mean, you name it, we can dream up another word for it. So bugs, errors and defects is what the inquiry came to know these things as. And these are numbered. There are in fact 29 in this report. Oh, by the way, if you ever do look at the second witness statement, don't start to read it from the beginning. Just basically go and look for a name like, I'll give you the name of some bugs and say, find that right now. I mean, because it's way down, it's actually appendix to their submission. So the bed numbers, and there are 29 of them, I'm going to talk about 4 of those. I better tell you now where those numbers come from. Mr Bates versus the Post Office is where they came from. from that judgment. The judgment that was made that says, do you know, Post Office, I think you've been a little economic with the truth here. And there are, in fact, faults in Horizon which have caused shortfalls in people's accounts, and therefore you made a lot of people unhappy, and we don't like this. And by the way, you have to pay some money now, although actually most of the money got swallowed up in legal fees, as it does. So the numbers originally came from that judgment, that ruling. So I'm going to look at 4. What should I tell you about those? Yeah, that will do. So let's start at the beginning with the first one. Now the stuff in blue is taken directly from the Fujitsu submission to the inquiry. So let's just have a look at this. First of all, it's got a name, hasn't it? The reversals bug. It's always good to give your faults, to give your bugs a meaningful name, isn't it? Reversals. I mean, you're probably thinking reversals. Hey, where's that come from? Well, let's read what they've written. On occasions, when a postmaster, sub-postmaster as it happens, when a postmaster attempted to reverse out a sum which had been remmed in, I'll explain that in a minute, the balance showed double the initial amount rather than 0. Now you might think, that's not looking too good. Double rather than 0. Oh, you mean somebody was trying to clear something and it's double? Well, they were trying to clear a shortfall. And it says, oh, you're a £2,000 shortfall. Click, £4,000 shortfall. Remming in is adding cash to a workstation, to a till. I think it comes from remittance, something like that. So reversal means, you know, we told the system we were putting some cash in there, but actually I've changed my mind. I don't want to put the cash in. The cash, by the way, had come from the post office. It arrives in a pouch. The pouch has a code on it. You must scan the code. And so somebody had remmed in the money to say to the system, hello, we've got some extra money in the till, and then said, oh, no, we put it in the wrong till. We need to move it to the other till, something like that. It wouldn't happen very often, but it did happen. But it doubled it. It made things twice as bad as they were. That's normally considered to be an issue. Now, to be fair to Fujitsu, they recognized very quickly that this was a problem and they fixed it very quickly. This occurred in, dates, Frank, this occurred in, 2003. So, you know, it wasn't prevalent. Let's look at how it came about. Well, somebody had coded this the wrong way around. They incremented a variable's value rather than decrementing it, or the other way around. So it was a coding error, easy to fix, but it was a coding error in what was in itself a fix. So here, there would have been another bug, and somebody had fixed that, and in doing that, they've caused this bug. You know, I don't know, it's just astonishing. Could it ever happen that somebody, you know, yeah. I won't ask how many people have encountered this sort of thing before. There is a theory that with some systems, it just gets to the point where you fix one thing and 2 more bugs spring up. I'll fix those, and now 4 bugs spring up. And you might think, hello, maybe we better declare ourselves bankrupt or something. Why wasn't it picked up in regression testing? The regression test failure was admitted by Fujitsu in their submission. Why haven't they picked that one up? Yes. What can one say? Right, that'll do for that. We move on. Now, it's always useful to give your bugs meaningful names. So here is the calendar square bug. When Mark very kindly said, yeah, you can do this talk, I twist his arm a bit. You can do this talk. And I thought, oh, this is good, you know. I can talk about bugs. I can show, let's do 4 bugs. And I know what I'm going to do. For every bug, it's all going to fit on one slide. And I'm going to start it all with a quote from the Fujitsu information. Yeah? Now, This is a very strange and interesting bug. It is quite possible for a software fault to cause more than one kind of failure. This is a classic example of it. Well, you can read this as quick as I can write it, but different things might go wrong. Not all the time, didn't happen all the time, not like reversals, that happened all the time. Sometimes we lose money. Sometimes we've done the same thing and we don't. Oh dear, it's one of those bugs. But, I mean, those sort of things don't exist, do they, in the real world? No, I'm getting to that. And this is a quote from their evidence. In some cases, the Canada Square branch, in particular, the lock problem, things might become a little clearer in a moment, caused data to be lost when carrying out transfers between different stock units, i.e. different tills, thus causing receipts and payments mismatch. Oh, a receipts and payments mismatch. That sounds good. What might that mean? See, I can go back into lecturer mode. What might that mean? It means you lost money. Oh yeah, okay, right. There is, incidentally, if any of you do go and look at the whole list of the bugs, one of them, it might be the first one, is actually called the receipts and mismatch bug. But this is also the same thing, because it's meant the accounts are out of sync with reality. So, when did this happen? Oh yes, I'll tell you that later. Right. Let's go to the next slide. Now, these are the symptoms, i.e. things might happen, and that's the cause. When ICL initially bid as part of a consortium for the work, they did declare upfront to the post office, we're not going to write all the software ourselves. Some of it is going to come from another source. Yeah, I'll tell you a bit about Riposte in a moment or two. But there's this third-party software that went wrong. You've got to say, impossible, you know, when we use third-party software, it's already been clearly validated by use elsewhere, and it couldn't possibly go wrong. Oh, come on, get real. And you guys might know more about locks and how they work, but it seems to be something to do with the architecture of the system and the way that information is being passed around. Okay, so we move on. Time. This was a bug first raised in 2000, fixed in 2006. Not good, not as quick as the first one, but apparently the Escher Group, who are based in Boston in the States, developed Riposte. Riposte is used for message handling and was used for some other things. They didn't really know about it until 2005, or at least they weren't looking to fix it until about 2005. This is a quote from a different bit of evidence. This is a former Fujitsu engineer saying, and this is worth reading out, in general, Escher would not accept any defect unless it could be reproduced, and this is one we couldn't reliably reproduce. I don't know, does anybody use any third-party software at all? Just, you know, what can we say? This isn't, by the way, this isn't the first time that third-party software has caused a problem of this nature. August Bank Holiday 2003, UK air traffic control system went down. That wasn't the NAT software, well it was NAT software, but it was third-party software within the NAT software that had gone wrong. And the final quote on this particular bug, we've almost got rid of it, again from another Fujitsu engineer, a bit of a worrying quote really. Lots of error messages produced by Riposte, and there was no documentation which said what this error message means and what the consequences could be. Incidentally, the NATS problem suffered from exactly that issue. There was an error message and they didn't know what it meant. Well, the developers had, but not the NATS people. Okay, we'll roll on. Concurrent logins bug. This time, 1999. This one does fit on the slide. And again, receipts and payments mismatch. What a surprise. What's going on here? A sub-postmaster is trying to be clever, probably in an evening. They're trying to roll over, which is an end of accounting period activity. They're trying to roll over the account whilst at the same time moving some money from one system to another. The system, it says there, should have prevented the postmaster from doing that, but it didn't. Now, when I was looking at these, this is the one I found most difficulty in understanding exactly what went wrong. But it seems sort of on balance that Fujitsu were hoping that Riposte would stop this happening, and it didn't. And when they asked Escher said, oh, no, Riposte won't stop that happening. And of course, Fujitsu now think, oh dear, we better sort that out. And they did. Although you'll notice a bit at the end there, an earlier release should have already fixed the issue, but it hadn't. So I don't know whether that's another regression testing problem. Strange problem. Let's move on. Let's move on to my favourite bug. I don't know, are you allowed to have favourite bugs? Please. Right, now then. This was reported, oh yes, the other thing I should say about Riposte is that in 2010, Fujitsu got rid of Riposte altogether. They replaced the Horizon with something called Horizon Online. Again, would have reused a lot of the existing code, I would imagine, but it didn't use Riposte anymore, period. But that didn't stop the bugs, because this bug happened in 2017. So let's have a look at this. I love this one. So you go into your post office and it's stamps and parcels, isn't it? They don't do anything else. But you can go and get your travel money there, can't you? As in bureau de change, hence bureau discrepancy bug. So what's happened here is that a customer has come in to a branch and they said, I want to buy some foreign currency. And the postmaster says, yeah, not a problem. But I want to buy 2 different kinds of foreign currency. Not 1, 2. And in the middle of this process, the network goes down. So, well, I'll kind of summarize what's going on there. So the sub-postmaster says, when the network comes back, I better cancel that and start again. But part of it had already gone through. And the sub-postmaster didn't know that. And now the accounts are out of sync with reality. What's in the till is less than what should be in the till. Not, again, not too clever. It was fixed, really, by changing the design. Because the original design for this had been, well, that's fine, we can handle all this. Even though it's 2 currencies, we can handle it all as a single transaction. Effectively, what Fujitsu did was to handle it as 2 transactions. So design was wrong in the first place. You may think, why is he dwelling on that? Bear with me. So, software is fun, isn't it, making software? It's yeah, but I mean, this is what we do. This is what you do. And it's all thought stuff. It really is. And it's all sort of up there, isn't it? And the architecture's up there as well, the whole lot. So let's just take a step back and see what we've encountered so far. I really have no reason to believe that ICL and Fujitsu were failing to develop software according to relatively good professional standards. I don't see anything that says they didn't. We've seen some weird code, but I've seen weird code. So what we've got, with the exception of reversals, what we've got here are 3 bugs which caused a phantom accounting shortfalls, but they were due to complex and comparatively rare conditions. The bugs were difficult for the testers to find, which is why I'm assuming the testers didn't find them. You're going to have, let's have a test for somebody buying 2 currencies and the network goes around right in the middle of that, or possibly in the middle plus 1 statement. It's difficult to test that kind of thing. What, am I talking rubbish? Yes, they say. Mark will say he's really got to finish very soon. What can we learn? Well, very, very briefly, get your regression testing right. Understand what software, third-party software does. There's an opportunity. The Post Office actually took this, tried to take this. They weren't getting very far with ICL at the time, to review the software design to say, what if? What happens under these circumstances? Code reviews. Marmite, really. I mean, some organisations stand by code reviews, say they're very effective in finding bugs. They can certainly show some awful code is there, and they say, change that. If you don't do code reviews, your awful code is never seen. You can't find it by testing. Other people, of course, think code reviews? Nah, not touching that with a barge pole, not interested. Could Fujitsu have extended the test? Well, they might. There's a testing technique called combinatorial testing, where you're looking to test not just sort of single inputs, but combinations of inputs, combinations of events. Say, what if this happens and that happens? They might have been able to do that. I think it's worth studying bugs. You may disagree with me, but there we go. And finally, the real end users, the people doing the Post Office work, were not listened to by people in government, people in the Post Office, people in ICL Fujitsu, which has put us in a position where lives and livelihoods were harmed by a faulty computer system. I'm hoping we can learn from this. I would advise you, although you know this already, make good software. Okay.